There is a quiet truth that most people never talk about. The people with the fewest friends are not always the loneliest. Sometimes they are the strongest. Society teaches us that popularity is success, that the more people surrounding you, the happier your life must be. But history tells a very different story. Some of the world's greatest thinkers, leaders, philosophers, and visionaries spent much of their lives alone, not because they were rejected, but because they discovered something the crowd never understood. Robert Greene often reminds us that human nature pushes people toward acceptance. Most people fear standing alone. They change their opinions to fit in. They hide their true personality. They laugh when everyone laughs, or they remain silent when they should speak. And slowly, they lose themselves. The strongest people choose a different path. They would rather be respected than accepted, rather be authentic than popular, rather walk alone than follow the wrong crowd. That doesn't mean having no friends automatically makes someone wise. Healthy friendships are one of life's greatest blessings. But there is an enormous difference between meaningful relationships and constantly surrounding yourself with people simply because you're afraid of being alone. Today's video is not about encouraging loneliness. It's about understanding the personality traits that are often found in people who are comfortable standing on their own. As you listen, don't ask yourself how many friends you have. Ask yourself something much more important. Who are you becoming? Because by the end of this video, you may discover that what you've always considered your weakness has actually been preparing you for your greatest strength. Let's begin with the first personality trait. The first personality trait is something most people never understand. They become comfortable being alone, not because they hate people, but because they finally learn to enjoy their own company. For many people, silence feels uncomfortable. The moment they are alone, they grab their phone, open social media, watch another video, or message someone just to escape their own thoughts. Being alone scares them because silence forces them to meet the one person they've spent their entire life avoiding, themselves. Robert Greene often explains that self-awareness cannot grow inside constant distraction. If your attention is always focused on other people, you'll never truly understand yourself. The people who have very few friends usually discover something powerful. Solitude is not punishment. It is preparation. It gives them time to think, time to reflect, time to improve, time to understand their emotions. Instead of reacting to life, they begin observing it. That single habit changes everything. Think about the greatest leaders in history. Before making important decisions, they didn't ask everyone for advice. They stepped back, they reflected, they questioned themselves. Because clarity rarely comes from noise, it comes from silence. Most people believe happiness comes from having more people around them. But mentally strong individuals know something different. Peace is far more valuable than popularity. Someone can have hundreds of contacts, thousands of followers, dozens of friends, and still feel completely empty. Another person may have only one or two genuine relationships, yet feel deeply fulfilled. The difference isn't the number of people, it's the quality of connection. Independent people understand this better than most. Instead of chasing attention, they protect their peace. They no longer feel the need to attend every gathering, reply to every message, or prove themselves to everyone they meet at first. People misunderstand them. Some call them arrogant. Others think they're shy. A few assume they're unhappy, but appearances are often misleading. The truth is much simpler. They've learned to enjoy their own company. And once you truly enjoy your own company, you stop begging others to stay. This is one of the greatest forms of freedom a person can experience. Because the moment you stop fearing loneliness, no one can use loneliness against you. That is exactly where real confidence begins. Not when everyone accepts you, but when you finally accept yourself. And once someone reaches that level of self-acceptance, another powerful personality trait begins to appear, one that completely changes the way they deal with people. They stop living for approval. The second personality trait is one of the rarest qualities you can develop. They stop living for other people's approval. Most people never realize how much of their life is controlled by the opinions of others. Before speaking, they wonder what everyone will think. Before making a decision, they ask for permission. Before chasing a dream, they worry about criticism without realizing it. They slowly become prisoners of public opinion. Robert Greene often reminds us that the desire to be liked is one of the easiest human weaknesses to manipulate. The moment someone knows you desperately need approval, they gain power over your emotions. A compliment makes you feel unstoppable. A criticism destroys your confidence. A rejection ruins your entire day. That is not confidence. That is dependence. People with very few friends eventually discover something life-changing. You cannot control how people see you, but you can control how you see yourself. That realization changes everything. Imagine carrying a mirror everywhere you go. Every person who meets you writes an opinion on that mirror. Some admire you, some criticize you, others misunderstand you completely. If you spend your life reading every opinion, you'll eventually forget what you actually look like. Most people do exactly that. They define themselves through other people's expectations. Independent people choose another path. They stop pretending. They stop agreeing with everyone. They stop apologizing for having standards. And suddenly, some people disappear from their lives. Why? Because many relationships only survive while you remain convenient. The moment you start saying no, the wrong people become uncomfortable. Healthy people respect your boundaries. Manipulative people resent them. That difference tells you everything you need to know. Shaolin wisdom teaches that a peaceful mind doesn't seek applause. It seeks mastery. There is a huge difference. Applause lasts for a moment. Character lasts forever. The modern world rewards attention, but attention is temporary. Self-respect is permanent. That is why mentally strong people focus on becoming someone they admire, not someone everyone approves of. Ironically, the less you chase validation, the more confident you become. And the more confident you become, the more naturally people begin to respect you. Not because you demanded attention, but because you no longer needed it. That quiet confidence is impossible to fake. And once someone stops depending on approval, another personality trait begins to emerge. They no longer waste their energy on unnecessary drama. The third personality trait is something that separates emotionally strong people from everyone else. They refuse to waste their energy on unnecessary drama. Most people react before they think. Someone says something offensive, they immediately respond. Someone criticizes them, they spend the entire day trying to defend themselves. Someone starts an argument, they feel obligated to win. But people who have very few friends see things differently. They understand that not every battle deserves their attention. Robert Greene often explains that emotional reactions reveal more weakness than strength. The person who loses control of their emotions usually loses control of the situation. That is why emotionally intelligent people learn the power of restraint. They pause before speaking, they observe before reacting, they think before making decisions. This doesn't mean they never get angry. It means they don't allow anger to make their decisions. Imagine standing beside a lake. When the water is disturbed, you can't see your reflection. But when the water becomes still, everything becomes clear. The human mind works the same way. A restless mind creates poor decisions. A calm mind creates wise decisions. Independent people protect that calmness at all costs. They don't argue over every opinion. They don't respond to every insult. They don't waste hours trying to convince people who have already decided not to understand them. Instead, they ask themselves one simple question: will this matter 1 year from now? If the answer is no, they let it go, because peace is more valuable than proving a point. Unfortunately, many people mistake this silence for weakness, but silence is often confidence. The loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. Very often, the strongest person is the one who remains calm while everyone else loses control. Shaolin wisdom teaches that every emotional reaction either strengthens your discipline or strengthens your weakness. Every time you control your emotions, your character grows stronger. Every time your emotions control you, your peace becomes easier to steal. That is why mentally strong people carefully protect their emotional energy. They choose their battles wisely. They invest their time where it creates growth, not where it creates chaos. As a result, their circle naturally becomes smaller. People who enjoy gossip slowly disappear. People who constantly create drama move on. Only those who value honesty, respect, and maturity remain. This is why having fewer friends doesn't always mean having a lonely life. Sometimes it simply means you've stopped giving your energy to the wrong people. And once you stop wasting your energy, you begin protecting something even more valuable: your trust. The third personality trait is something that separates emotionally strong people from everyone else. They refuse to waste their energy on unnecessary drama. Most people react before they think. Someone says something offensive, they immediately respond. Someone criticizes them, they spend the entire day trying to defend themselves. Someone starts an argument, they feel obligated to win. But people who have very few friends see things differently. They understand that not every battle deserves their attention. Robert Greene often explains that emotional reactions reveal more weakness than strength. The person who loses control of their emotions usually loses control of the situation. That is why emotionally intelligent people learn the power of restraint. They pause before speaking, they observe before reacting, they think before making decisions. This doesn't mean they never get angry. It means they don't allow anger to make their decisions. Imagine standing beside a lake. When the water is disturbed, you can't see your reflection. But when the water becomes still, everything becomes clear. The human mind works the same way. A restless mind creates poor decisions. A calm mind creates wise decisions. Independent people protect that calmness at all costs. They don't argue over every opinion. They don't respond to every insult. They don't waste hours trying to convince people who have already decided not to understand them. Instead, they ask themselves one simple question: will this matter 1 year from now? If the answer is no, they let it go, because peace is more valuable than proving a point. Unfortunately, many people mistake this silence for weakness, but silence is often confidence. The loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. Very often, the strongest person is the one who remains calm while everyone else loses control. Shaolin wisdom teaches that every emotional reaction either strengthens your discipline or strengthens your weakness. Every time you control your emotions, your character grows stronger. Every time your emotions control you, your peace becomes easier to steal. That is why mentally strong people carefully protect their emotional energy. They choose their battles wisely. They invest their time where it creates growth, not where it creates chaos. As a result, their circle naturally becomes smaller. People who enjoy gossip slowly disappear. People who constantly create drama move on. Only those who value honesty, respect, and maturity remain. This is why having fewer friends doesn't always mean having a lonely life. Sometimes it simply means you've stopped giving your energy to the wrong people. And once you stop wasting your energy, you begin protecting something even more valuable: your trust. The fifth and final personality trait explains why these people are often misunderstood. They stop chasing popularity and start chasing purpose. Most people spend years trying to be accepted, trying to fit in, trying to impress others, trying to become someone everyone likes. But people who have mastered solitude ask a completely different question: what am I building with my life? Robert Greene often reminds us that extraordinary people become obsessed with mastery, not attention. They understand that popularity fades, purpose remains. Think about the greatest inventors, the greatest artists, the greatest leaders. None of them became extraordinary because they attended every social event. They became extraordinary because they protected their time. While others were chasing approval, they were chasing excellence. Purpose demands sacrifice. It demands discipline. It demands consistency. And sometimes it demands walking alone. This is why many successful people naturally have smaller social circles, not because they dislike people, because they value their mission more than temporary entertainment. Every unnecessary conversation costs time. Every distraction steals attention. Every hour wasted can never be recovered. Shaolin wisdom teaches that where your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention is scattered, your life becomes scattered. If your attention is focused, your future becomes focused. That is why mentally strong people guard their time carefully. They wake up with intention. They work with intention. They even rest with intention. Everything they do moves them closer to their purpose. Most people wait for motivation. Purpose-driven people rely on discipline because motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Imagine climbing a mountain. At the bottom, thousands of people surround you. Everyone is talking. Everyone is competing. Everyone wants attention. But as you climb higher, the crowd becomes smaller. The air becomes quieter. The journey becomes harder. Success often works the same way. The higher your standards become, the fewer people continue the journey with you. And that's okay, because your destination was never meant for everyone. Robert Greene believed that real power belongs to people who organize their lives around long-term goals instead of short-term emotions. That is exactly what purpose does. It keeps you moving, even when nobody is watching, even when nobody applauds, even when nobody believes in you, because your mission becomes stronger than your need for approval, and one day, the same people who ignored your discipline will admire your results. Not because you chased recognition, but because excellence eventually becomes impossible to ignore. Remember this, never measure your life by how many people know your name. Measure it by how much progress you make when no one is watching. Popularity may bring attention, but purpose builds legacy. So ask yourself one honest question. Are you spending your life trying to impress people or becoming someone you can truly respect? Because in the end, the strongest person is not the one with the biggest crowd. Or the strongest person is the one who never abandoned their purpose just to fit in. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. There is something that many people never realize until much later in life. Solitude has two very different faces. One gives you strength, the other slowly steals it away. The difference depends entirely on your mindset. Chosen solitude is freedom. Forced isolation feels like a prison. At first, they may look the same from the outside, a person sitting alone, working alone, walking alone, living quietly. But inside, the experience is completely different. One person is growing, the other is slowly disappearing. Robert Greene often reminds us that every strength becomes a weakness when taken to the extreme. Solitude is no exception. If you use your time alone to think, to learn, to improve, to heal, then solitude becomes your greatest teacher. But if you spend your time replaying old pain, holding on to resentment, feeling sorry for yourself, or convincing yourself that nobody cares, solitude quietly becomes suffering. Many people hide behind the phrase, "I don't need anyone." But sometimes that sentence isn't confidence, it's disappointment disguised as strength. True confidence doesn't reject people. It simply doesn't depend on them. There is a huge difference. Healthy solitude creates peace. Unhealthy isolation creates fear. Healthy solitude makes you stronger. Unhealthy isolation slowly convinces you that the world is against you. Shaolin wisdom teaches that balance is one of the highest forms of discipline. Too much noise weakens the mind. But too much silence can also weaken the heart. The goal is never to escape humanity. The goal is to understand yourself well enough that you can return to the world without losing yourself again. Think about an eagle. It spends much of its life flying alone, but it doesn't isolate itself because it hates other birds. It flies alone because that is where it sees the world most clearly. Your life should follow the same principle. Spend enough time alone to gain clarity, then return to the world with wisdom instead of confusion. Never allow loneliness to become your identity. Let it become your classroom. Learn from it, grow through it, and leave it stronger than you entered. Because the purpose of solitude was never to hide from life. The purpose was to prepare you for it. Once you understand that, everything begins to change. Your confidence grows naturally. Your decisions become wiser. Your relationships become healthier. And for the first time, you begin discovering how to transform solitude into real personal power. Before you leave, remember one thing. Life is not a competition to collect the most friends. It is a journey to become the strongest version of yourself. There will be moments when people misunderstand your silence. Some will call you distant, others will call you different. A few may even walk away. Let them. Not every departure is a loss. Sometimes it is life removing distractions so you can focus on your purpose. Robert Greene teaches that every powerful person eventually learns to separate emotion from direction. Just because someone leaves your life doesn't mean your life has lost its value. Sometimes the greatest growth begins the moment you stop chasing those who were never meant to stay. Protect your time, protect your energy, protect your peace. Because these three things determine the quality of your future. The world will always try to pull your attention in 1,000 different directions. Social media will demand your focus. Negative people will demand your reaction. Comfort will tempt you to abandon your goals. But discipline whispers something different. Stay focused, stay patient, stay committed. The strongest people are not those who never feel lonely. They are the ones who refuse to let loneliness define them. Instead, they turn every quiet moment into preparation, every setback into wisdom, every disappointment into motivation. That is the mindset of someone who cannot easily be broken. Imagine where your life could be 1 year from today if you spent just 1 hour every day improving yourself instead of seeking approval. 1 hour reading, 1 hour learning, 1 hour training your body, 1 hour strengthening your mind. Those small daily choices would create a version of yourself that most people would hardly recognize. Success rarely arrives through one extraordinary decision. It arrives through ordinary decisions repeated consistently. That is why the strongest people never wait for the perfect moment. They create it, one disciplined habit at a time, one courageous decision at a time, one peaceful day at a time. So from this day forward, choose purpose over popularity. Choose growth over comfort. Choose discipline over excuses. And most importantly, choose to become someone your future self will be proud of. Because in the end, your greatest achievement will never be the number of people who knew your name. It will be the person you became while the rest of the world was searching for approval. And that is the true power of mastering yourself. There is one final lesson that Robert Greene would want you to remember. Power is never something that is given. It is something that is built, quietly, patiently, one decision at a time. Every morning you wake up, you are given two choices. You can spend your energy trying to control how people see you, or you can spend that same energy becoming someone who no longer needs anyone's approval. One path leads to temporary attention. The other leads to lasting confidence. The choice is yours. Remember, the people who laughed at your discipline today may one day admire the life it created. The people who ignored your efforts may eventually ask for your advice, not because you convinced them, but because results speak louder than explanations. Never underestimate the power of quiet consistency. The tallest buildings begin with a single brick. The strongest trees begin as tiny seeds. The greatest leaders begin as unknown individuals who simply refuse to quit. Your life follows the same principle. Every book you read, every workout you complete, every distraction you avoid, every promise you keep to yourself is another brick in the foundation of your future. Most people give up because they expect immediate results. Mentally strong people keep going because they understand that success grows slowly. One day, without warning, everything changes. The habits become your lifestyle. The discipline becomes your identity. The confidence becomes natural. And the person who once feared being alone becomes someone who is completely at peace with themselves. That is true freedom. Not freedom from problems, but freedom from depending on other people to determine your worth. So don't fear walking alone. Fear walking in the wrong direction just because everyone else is doing it. Don't fear having a small circle. Fear surrounding yourself with people who pull you away from your purpose. Don't fear silence. Fear a life so noisy that you never hear your own potential calling you. Because in the end, people won't remember how many friends you had. They'll remember your character, your courage, your discipline, and the impact you left behind. So begin today. Protect your peace. Choose your relationships wisely. Master your emotions. Stay committed to your purpose. And never stop becoming the strongest version of yourself. Because the greatest victory you will ever achieve is mastering your own mind. If you've listened this far, you've already done something most people never do. You've stopped, you've reflected, and perhaps, for the first time in a long time, you've questioned the direction of your own life. That alone is powerful, because change never begins with action. It begins with awareness. The moment you become aware of your habits, you gain the power to change them. The moment you become aware of your weaknesses, you begin transforming them into strengths. Robert Greene teaches that self-mastery is not a destination. It is a lifelong process. Every single day you will be tested. Some days people will disappoint you. Some days life will feel unfair. Some days you will question your own abilities. Those moments do not define you. Your response does. Anyone can remain positive when life is easy. Real character appears when everything becomes difficult. That is when discipline matters. That is when patience matters. That is when purpose matters. Never forget, the strongest people are not those who avoid struggle. They are the ones who use struggle as fuel. Every failure teaches them. Every rejection strengthens them. Every setback prepares them. While others complain, they continue moving forward, quietly, consistently, without needing recognition, because they understand something the average person never does. Success isn't built in public, it's built in private, long before anyone applauds your achievements. You must first win the battles no one else can see, the battle against procrastination, the battle against fear, the battle against self-doubt, the battle against comfort. Win those battles, and the external victories will eventually follow. So, as you move forward, carry these lessons with you. Value your peace, protect your attention, choose your relationships wisely, speak less, observe more, grow every single day, and above all, never allow temporary loneliness to convince you that you are on the wrong path. Sometimes, the road with the fewest people leads to the greatest destination. Walk it with confidence, walk it with discipline, walk it with purpose, because the person waiting for you at the end of that journey is the strongest version of yourself. And finally, understand this truth before you leave. Your life is being shaped every single day, whether you notice it or not. Every decision you make, every habit you repeat, every person you allow into your life is quietly creating your future. Most people spend years waiting for life to change. They wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect relationship, the perfect motivation, the perfect moment. But mentally strong people understand something different. The perfect moment never arrives. You create it, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one disciplined day at a time. Robert Greene often reminds us that greatness isn't built through dramatic moments. It's built through consistent actions repeated over years. The world celebrates the final victory. Very few people appreciate the thousands of invisible sacrifices behind it. Those early mornings, those lonely nights, those difficult choices, those moments when nobody believed in you. Those are the moments that build extraordinary people. So stop asking yourself, when will my life change? Instead, ask, what can I change today? Because today's decisions become tomorrow's reality. Remember, confidence is earned, discipline is earned, respect is earned, peace is earned. Nothing valuable comes without effort, and that is exactly why so few people achieve it. They quit too early, they become distracted, they seek comfort instead of growth. Don't make the same mistake. Stay patient, stay focused, protect your energy, protect your standards, protect your purpose. One day, you'll look back and realize the seasons that felt the loneliest were actually the seasons that transformed you the most. So never be afraid of walking your own path. Never be afraid of standing alone for what you believe, because those who master themselves eventually master their lives. And once you master your own life, no outside opinion has the power to control your future ever again. Before we end this journey, take a moment to think about one final question. Who are you becoming when nobody is watching, not when you're at work, not when you're with friends, not when you're posting online, but when you're completely alone? Because that version of you is the real you. Robert Greene believed that character is built in private long before it is recognized in public. The world only sees the finished product. It never sees the discipline behind it, the sacrifices, the failures, the lonely mornings, the sleepless nights, the moments when quitting felt easier than continuing. Yet those invisible moments create visible success. That is why mentally strong people don't chase shortcuts. They chase progress, even if that progress is slow, even if nobody notices, even if nobody applauds, because they understand one timeless truth. Small improvements repeated every single day eventually produce extraordinary results. Never compare your beginning to someone else's finish. Everyone has a different journey, a different struggle, a different purpose. The only person you should compete with is the person you were yesterday. Become a little wiser, a little calmer, a little stronger, a little more disciplined every single day. Eventually, those small victories become a completely different life. So don't fear slow progress. Fear standing still. Don't fear being alone. Fear becoming someone you've never wanted to be. And don't fear losing people. Fear losing yourself while trying to keep them. Because at the end of your life, people won't remember how popular you were. They'll remember your integrity, your courage, your discipline, your kindness, and the example you left behind. So walk your own path. Protect your peace. Choose your circle wisely. Master your emotions. Stay faithful to your purpose. And never stop becoming the strongest version of yourself. Because the greatest investment you will ever make is the investment you make in your own character. That investment never loses its value. It only grows stronger with time. One day you will look back on this chapter of your life and you'll realize something extraordinary. The moments you once called loneliness were actually moments of preparation. Life was teaching you patience, teaching you discipline, teaching you independence, teaching you to become the kind of person who no longer needed constant approval to feel valuable. Robert Greene often reminds us that the strongest people are rarely created during times of comfort. They are created during seasons of struggle, when no one is cheering for them, when no one believes in them, when every reason to quit seems stronger than every reason to continue. Yet they continue anyway. That is where true character is born, not in success, but in persistence. Remember, you don't need a crowd to become extraordinary. You need clarity, you need discipline, you need consistency. You need the courage to keep moving even when nobody notices your progress. Because progress is still progress, even when it is invisible. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. It grows beneath the surface long before anyone sees a single leaf. Your personal growth follows the same principle. Keep learning, keep improving, keep building yourself in silence. Eventually, the results will speak louder than anything you could ever say. And when that day arrives, don't become arrogant. Stay humble, stay grateful, stay focused. Because the greatest victory isn't proving people wrong. The greatest victory is proving to yourself that you never gave up. So no matter where you are today, whether you have many friends or only a few, never measure your worth by the number of people around you. Measure it by the strength of your character, the honesty of your actions, the discipline of your habits, and the peace within your mind. Because in the end, those are the things that truly define a remarkable life. Keep walking your path, keep protecting your peace, keep mastering your mind, and never stop becoming the person you were created to be. If today's message gave you a new perspective, don't let it end here. Knowledge changes nothing until it becomes action. Tonight, do something different. Turn off the noise, put your phone away, sit alone for a few minutes, no music, no distractions, no social media, just you and your thoughts. Then ask yourself one simple question. Am I living the life I truly want, or the life other people expect from me? Or be honest, because honesty is where transformation begins. Robert Greene teaches that every extraordinary life begins with self-awareness, not luck, not talent, not perfect timing, but the courage to face yourself without excuses. The people who master their minds eventually master their lives. So stop chasing approval. Stop comparing yourself to everyone else. Stop fearing solitude. Instead, use every quiet moment to become wiser, stronger, calmer, more disciplined. Protect your peace. Guard your attention. Choose your relationships carefully. And never trade your purpose for temporary acceptance. Remember, the world doesn't reward those who follow the crowd forever. It remembers those who had the courage to walk their own path. One day, people will see your confidence, your discipline, your success, but they'll never fully understand the silent mornings,